Hello, I'm Brooke from Health Coach Army, and today I'm going to be reviewing ketchup and tomato sauce. Ketchup and tomato sauce is something that we're putting on a lot of our foods, and when we're looking at what to purchase and what's available on the market, the ingredients is the most important thing. Sometimes we get a little bit lost in this and look at things like the nutritional panel on the back of, or the nutritional information on the back of a product. And the problem with this is it's not actually telling us what's in it. It tells us the carbohydrates, the sugar, the fats and calories, etc., but not the ingredients, and that's what's going into our body and into our family's bodies. So I went down to the local supermarket and my local health food store, and also grabbed one from my fridge to show a few options of what we've got, and let's compare them. The first tomato-based ketchup recipe was in 1801 by Sandy Addison, and it's changed a little bit since then, but the basic ingredients are tomatoes, obviously, sugar, salt, some have vinegar and other spices. So when, first off the bat, let's have a look at the Heinz tomato ketchup. When we are looking at the ingredients list, one of the most important things to remember is that the order that the ingredients are in is the percentage, in order of the percentage of the ingredients that is inside that product. So whatever is first has the highest percentage, second is the next highest percentage, and so on. And first up in the Heinz tomato ketchup is tomatoes. It says it's got 77%. Next is sugar, then salt, then concentrated vinegar, spice, herbs, extract. So when I look at this, my main concerns are, first of all, it has nothing here about where that they're Australian tomatoes. And so are they genetically modified ingredients in here? Is there genetically modified tomatoes? We know that Australian tomatoes are not genetically modified, but this, we do not know where these tomatoes are coming from. Next up is sugar. So for 77% tomatoes, there's probably, let's say 22% in here of sugar. So it's quite a lot per 100 grams. It's 22 grams of sugar. The salt, what kind of salt is it? Sea salt is good, but it doesn't specify that it's sea salt. So table salt can deplete the body of essential nutrients and not the greatest, and can also be an addictive source. So then next up, concentrated vinegar. What is the vinegar made from? Most vinegar is made from either a grain or corn, and again, is this made from a genetically modified corn? Are we giving something as simple as tomato sauce or ketchup that is ridden with genetically modified ingredients to our kids every single day? Spices and herb extracts, it contains garlic, which is great. So the spices in here come from a decent ingredient. Next up, the fountain tomato sauce. Now on this packaging it does say that it's no artificial, so sometimes we come across trickery labels on these products. So this has a badge that says gluten-free, no artificial flavors or colors, which is great. Gluten-free means that if there's vinegar in here, that it's not coming from a grain that has gluten in it. And let's have a look at the ingredients. So tomato puree, it's going to be similar. We've got tomato puree, sugar, salt, food acids, and natural flavour. So my main concern with this one is, again, it does not say, it says it's made in Australia on the neck, but it doesn't say that the tomatoes are actually Australian. So we do not know where they're coming from. Just, this is without investigating further. This is just by going to the supermarket and knowing what to look for. So we've got tomatoes, are they GMO? We don't know. Sugar, again, so it's a 1% less than the Heinz. Salt, again, is it table salt? Probably. Food acids and natural flavour. So when we say natural flavour, even though this badge says no artificial colours or flavourings, there's natural flavour in here. If you read something like Michael Pollan's Omnivore's Dilemma, he talks about natural flavours originating from a natural source, but once they're in a lab and getting used to in the production of food, it can change the chemical makeup of that actual product. So it denatures it almost to the point where it's not natural, but the food guidelines still say that it's natural because it originates from a natural source. So is that what's happening here? When I see natural flavour on a product, I don't usually go for it. So that's the fountain. Last option that I grabbed this morning from the from the supermarket is some Master Foods, and it was really interesting to see that there's two options. All of these products all kind of range around the same price, the ones from the supermarket. And with the Master Foods, this one here says made in Australia, and this one here says 100% Australian grown. So now the difference with these is 100% Australian grown. First of all, it can be seen as a bit of a trickery in terms of it says 100% Australian grown tomatoes. So when I first look at that, I think, oh, is there only tomatoes in this product? No, that's not the case. What's in here is the tomatoes that are 100% Australian grown. In this one, which is made in Australia, the tomatoes are not necessarily Australian grown, so therefore could be GMO. With the Australian grown tomato Master Foods, because they're grown in Australia, we know that there's no genetically modified tomatoes in Australia, so this is good. The comparison between the two is it's pretty much the same. We've got the tomatoes. One says tomatoes 76%, the other says Australian tomatoes 76%. Then we've got sugar, salt, food acid, onion, and spice extract. So I would obviously go for this one, which has the Australian tomatoes in there, because I know that there's no genetically modified ingredients in there. There's no vinegar. So again, there's no GMOs. And it doesn't say anything about natural flavour. It comes from spice extract. The pick between all of the ones from the supermarket would definitely be this. Mainly, my main reason is that the tomatoes in here are Australian grown. And that's not to say that the other ones aren't, but they don't say it on the package, so I'm assuming that they're not, and it's just things to look out for just briefly when we're quickly looking at the options when we're in front of the aisle and choosing something for our family and knowing what to look out for. So the pick, the 100% Australian grown Master Foods. Okay. The health food store, I popped out and I got one from the health food store and grabbed one from my kitchen. First up was the spiral tomato sauce, which is from my kitchen, and it's organic tomato ketchup. Usually when we go to a health food store, you want to be looking out for organic options. There are some in the supermarket as well. When you're looking for organic, there's a badge on all organic, certified organic products that has their certification, and there's strict regulations around organic products, which means that we're getting the best ingredients. When we look at the ingredient list on this, it's pretty similar story to the ones from the supermarket, except that the ingredients are organic. The tomatoes, there's a lesser percentage, so the 67% in this, which means it's higher in sugar. Organic sugar, but still sugar. And next ingredient is grain vinegar, so it's vinegar that comes from corn or rye, but because it's organic, we know that they're not genetically modified. And then salt and spice. The last option, now this does not necessarily mean that these are the only things on the Australian market, but they're the ones that I found locally, and I do know of another store that I saw that has a different one this week, but I didn't want to totally bombard. Anyway, this Muir Glen product is certified, USDA certified. So it is certified in the United States, and this product is from the US. This one is without a doubt the standout out of all of them, and the reason why, again, it's organic. The ingredients in order: 95% tomatoes. Then next up, sugar. It does have sugar, but because there's 95%, there's going to be, around about 4% of sugar, so not that much. Then we have vinegar, sea salt. So sea salt is the salt that we're looking for, which has the minerals that we desperately need. Onion powder, clove, cassia and celery, garlic powder and cayenne. All of those ingredients and spices and herbs are going to make it delicious and nutritious, and it comes in a 680 gram. It is more expensive than the ones from the supermarket, but again, when we're looking at products that are going to be better for us, sometimes they are a little bit more expensive. So my pick out of all of them would be the Muir Glen from the health food store, or if you're supermarket shopping, this Master Foods 100% Australian grown tomato sauce. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next time on Health Coach Army TV.